Welcome to Let's Talk. Where ordinary people are doing extraordinary things. We are live and interactive. With education, spoken word, dating, love, and relationships. Culture. Spirituality. Community. Sports. And politics. Let's talk. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Hey, good evening, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and our other streaming avenues. Oh, tonight we got a good show ahead schedule, and which should be good. I know everybody's snowed in, so it should be no excuse why we shouldn't have a bunch of people watching. Join the conversation because this conversation sometimes needs to be had every now and then. We're not trying to be too deep. We're just going to have a conversation in regards to loss of life, death that we all face, well, whether it's from family and friends. What's up, Keita?
Hey everybody. How's
What's
it
going on?
going? Nothing. So, like Quentin said, we're going to be discussing death, right? But not, like he said, not trying to get too deep. I really just kind of want to touch on a little etiquette and being understanding, having compassion for other people when they are in the grieving process. I have on my glasses because I wrote a few things down, so I need to be able to see them. I'm getting old, and these good eyes don't work as good as they used to. So please,
Gotta eat
because
your carrots, baby. Gotta eat your carrots.
I ate them my whole life. I absolutely love, and I ate them for that very reason, and it didn't work. I got one bad eye. So, I figured let me tell y'all while I have on my glasses so y'all don't be all in the comments. So I said, she got a lot of glasses. She's trying to look smart, trying to look like I can see. That's what I'm trying to do. So, hi everybody, how's it going? Good, good, good. So let me just get right to it. So the other day, Cicely Tyson passed away, and I would say, last year and a half. I think we've all, on some level, have experienced some form of death. Just about every single person close to me, and I mean my best friends, have experienced tragic loss, and the majority of them have lost their mothers. Up until literally last week, one of my really good girlfriends' mother passed away. My condolences to her family. I had other best friend lost her mom, a dad. I mean, the list just goes on. Most of my best friends have been experiencing death, 3, 4, 5, 6 family members. And then on top of that, they're experiencing it through their friends. So, the grieving process usually doesn't start and stop at people who are closest to you, if you're close to them, you're close to their family. If these people are like sisters and brothers, you are experiencing that death as well. So the grieving process is you share it with your friends, and you're sharing it with your other family members, or you're experiencing it firsthand. But what triggered me to have this conversation was um, someone when the announcement came out that Cicely Tyson had passed away. Someone said, well, she was old. She was an old lady and she lived her life. And it brought me back to when my grandmother passed away. I was so traumatized and distraught that I was physically in pain. And I that was one of my first. That was the first time I ever had to experience a major death, especially from someone who saved my life. So I didn't matter that she was in her 80s, and it didn't matter that I spent 30 plus years with her. It didn't matter how old she was. I still had a connection to her, and that connection was over all of those years. And no matter how old she was, it didn't matter. I still was grieving the death of my grandmother. So, it just kind of makes me wonder, how do people say any and everything to you when you're experiencing death? You
You
know,
think you think people like that scenario is interesting? They'll be like we discussed. Oh, she lived a long life. She did everything she could possibly do. Um, and they say, and a person will say it and not understand the sensitivity of you saying that somebody just lost a loved one, and
you
for you to say oh, they was old, they lived a long life. Like, what that got to do with it? My family member, my loved one, is no longer here anymore.
right.
I
I'm
wanted them
grieving,
for at least for another day. They was
but you're
gone today.
right.
They got taken today. Why they can't be here at least for another day?
Right. And also, I'm grieving me. So, and you're talking to me. So, my family member is not here any longer, right? They're wherever they are, depending on what you believe in, or where you think they're going to go, if they're there already, or whatever, wherever, they're gone. I'm still here. You're talking to me. So why are you speaking to me that way? Like, where is the compassion? Where is the love? And if you don't have anything to say nothing. One of the biggest complaints that I get from um, friends is when they um, and it's not like it's something that comes up, because who wants to discuss the loss of a parent, or somebody that they were really close to? But if it happens to come up, then it turns into a competition. Now we're battling, right? So I'm you asked me a question. Well, I haven't been here because my mother passed away, or my dad passed away. Oh, I remember when my dog passed away. I was
So
this and I
so
was that. And
so now they turn somebody else's tragedy into their tragedy.
right, it becomes about them. I just don't know. And then one of my girlfriends, she was complaining about how she experiences this all the time, especially the language and the verbiage people use. Like when she's like, I'm really just not okay, and they're like, you'll be fine. She's like, how do you know? Why are you talking to me like that? Like, she gets really, really upset. And I really try to talk to her, and I say, they don't understand and they don't know any better. But I'm at a place where, why don't you? Why don't you know any better? Why don't you understand? Why can't you just offer your condolences? Maybe, send a card. Send, a card says everything. You can go read them. You can check them out before you buy them. Go to the Walgreens, right? Wherever you go, CVS, look for a card that says everything that you seem to can't say correctly, and send them a card. Like, you don't have to say anything. Just offer your condolences and be quiet.
I
That's
think
the part that I don't understand.
I think one of the things that a lot of us don't know what to say, and
Hmm.
you'll see that a person is going through something, and you may even know the person, and you may go through something too, and then you may see the person that may be have been closer to that individual, and then
Hmm.
you just don't know what to say, so you'll say anything, not realizing that we all feel different. It could be a numb feeling. It could be a angry feeling. No matter what the feeling is, sometimes you just need. And probably, prior to COVID, when people was hugging and all that, sometimes probably you just need to just give that person a hug and don't say nothing.
Right.
Just
Right.
don't say nothing. Just be like, call me if you need me. Just
Right. And I
you
used to
know.
think I used to think death was cultural. And because I would watch how my higher ups would deal with me when I experienced death. And they were different from me. They were a different race. They had their culture was different. So I used to think it was cultural. And I thought my people had death on lock. Like we knew how to celebrate life. We knew how to comfort and care about each other. And I still believe that wholeheartedly. I do believe that. Um, when you have culture, and you're close to your family, and you have traditions and rituals, and you're heavy in religion, I feel like you do handle death differently, right? But I think that the social media is giving people a space to just say anything. And I think we need to get back to sending cards, sending flowers, sending over just food, send over a fruit basket, and just saying, what is it? Anything that I can do for you, please let me know. And then if you don't know, then just go to your nearest grocery store, grab things that you think that will boost their immune system, put them in the box, and drop them off at the front door. And that's it.
Now you don't opened up a whole nother can with social media announcers of death. I know that
Isn't it
has been like
terrible?
a major topic. Sometimes people don't even know their loved one had died, and they'll get on social media, and that's how they find out. I mean, I, it's kind of it's kind of a unique situation, so to say, because I truly believe that when a family has a loss of a loved one, it should be a private situation at first,
Hmm.
and then it's like, okay, well, y'all have a huge family. Some people have huge families where you may have a cousin out of state that they can't get to. The people don't, and you want to inform them in the proper way, but it's like, okay, our relative been dead for 7 hours. When are we gonna announce it so everybody know? Let some other people know. So it's kind of like tricky. I've seen it, since we all been on Facebook basically since 2009 when Facebook was created. I've seen it go a whole bunch of different ways. Like I've seen people announce the death before the immediate
Hmm.
family knows, and
Hmm.
I've seen the anger, the hurt at the person that has announced the death, and then I've seen it go the other way where this is how the family announces the death of a loved one. Like I know that a friend of mine whose father just passed away yesterday, he announced on Facebook, Dad finally got his final call.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's how he announced it. Now he's away. He don't live in our area where we from, but I thought that was different. So I think it's a very unique situation, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had family members who, so my elders on my mother's side are all no longer here, and their children, they don't really have a lot of children, right? So we don't come from this huge big family, but there's always that one family member who thinks that it's their duty and their job to announce deaths. And I think it's the rudest thing in the world, because you need, and I'm not trying to tell people what to do, right? But you maybe you should relax a little bit. Like the people on Facebook are not even all of those people that you need to announce it to. That's a lot of people, right? So most people have a few hundred friends. So all of those people that you need to announce it to are not even priority. The people you need to is the people via text message. So if you mean something, you can't wait a few hours until all of your cousins know that your great aunt has passed away, or your great uncle or your great cousin has passed away. You just can't wait a few hours, huh? You just gotta let your childhood friend and your cousins from your father's side know that your great aunt has passed away, but the people that she raised and took care of don't need to know. I just think that people, whatever care that you have for people in your life just isn't there anymore. And I think people say anything they want to say. I've watched people who have had miscarriages and people bluntly look them in their face and say, well, thank God you didn't have to carry the baby the whole time.
Oh,
I
oh,
can't even, or you didn't have to deliver the baby. What difference does it make if you were 3 weeks pregnant, 6 weeks pregnant, or 8 months pregnant? What difference does it make? I
yeah. I
just
think that.
don't understand the boldness in the words and the things that people say drive me nuts. And then I have people who complain about, oh, don't ask how a person died. I, I, I think you can ask if you close to the person or the family, and you can ask them, right? But don't get all on social media asking how they died. Was it drugs? Were they out in the streets? Like, don't do that. I just,
Well,
whatever care and love that people have for each other, I just think is just gone.
well, it's
I just
interesting
think it's
because
gone.
now, like you said, prior to last year, this time, it was always an inquiry about the death. Now it's more of subjective. You had to die of COVID. No matter what, you had to die of
Mhm.
COVID.
Mhm.
Everything is COVID related, and and it's crazy because when we look at it, we know that it's been politicized, groups, all that. We're not talking about that aspect, but it's like, how can a person just die of natural causes? I mean, natural causes. I don't know if a lot of people looked at death certificates before. Natural causes used to go on there for even like diseases. It would say
Mhm.
natural cause. It's just that your immune system or whatever was going on couldn't fight a certain thing.
Right.
Even I don't know how it is when people pass away from cancer. I know with certain other diseases, if you pass away, it just say natural causes. Now
Mhm.
everything is, oh, they had to die of COVID. What they die, and you being insensitive because now you come in asking the immediate family what they died from, and they're just at the end of the day they're just suffering a loss, whether it's um an immediate family member or a close friend. We all, like we discussed, we all deal with that differently, and it's like, where's the sensitivity to the issue?
Right. And
Where
then
is
not only that, COVID, you can die from COVID, but my mother, my brother, my grandmother, my father are not a number. I think that's where the insensitivity comes in. If they pass away from COVID, they're not just one of the almost 300,000 people that died. They are still my mother,
yeah,
right? The focus is on my mother. My family is grieving. And if you are a friend or family of me, then you possibly know her. So you know my dad. I know so many people who, fathers have passed away, and the things that people say to them, well, how was their health? You need to get healthy. Their immune system was so bad. Did they have pre-existing issues? That's why they died of COVID. Those pre-existing issues. I be telling people they need to take their vitamin. Are you kidding me? Why are you having this
yeah.
conversation
It's like
around and to somebody?
it's like
How?
super 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 insensitive. Even when Hank Aaron died, it was, oh, he died because he took the vaccine. 2 weeks later, he showed us not to take it.
I
Like this
mean,
man
and that
still,
could have been true, but he's still dead. Like,
and then,
we don't know that. He's,
and then
he's
even
dead.
even so much, you even had the mayor of Atlanta like coming out with a statement like trying to refute the speculation. At the end of the day, like, yo, we don't need to speculate. We don't need to know. Let's have some type of empathy for their family. Like they lost a loved one. Definitely, like with the Cicely Tyson thing, I even saw that. Like, well, did she take the vaccine? I mean, what difference does it make that she take the vaccine or not? Or if she didn't take the vaccine, she's no longer with us. Let's have some type of if we watched her movies and we knew what she meant to the culture, let's celebrate her life. Like, why
Hmm.
does it matter if she took the vaccine or not? And even if you're on the, some of us are pro-vaccine, some of us are anti-vaccine. That's not the issue right now when we're dealing with the loss of life.
Hmm.
Deal with
Exactly.
that when you have to take a vaccine or when you choose not to take a vaccine, because that's an individual choice. Like,
Right.
just let her and her family mourn, which I did find out, and I didn't notice that her and Minister Farrakhan was first cousins.
Oh, I didn't know
I
that
never I
either.
never knew that as well. I
Oh,
thought that was interesting.
that really is. Because I was watching something, and a young man, he was on the news. He was one of the correspondents, and he was white. And he was talking about how when she speaks, every word is placed down perfectly. Like every word is deliberate. She sits it down, and she anytime she says something, it just lands and it feels good, and you know that it all had purpose. And for you to say that that's her first cousin makes sense. Maybe all of that runs in the family
Yeah,
because he's a great speaker as well.
somebody on Facebook said it's bugged out
I
when they
did see
ask
that.
about how somebody died in the comments. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they'd be like, "Well, how they die?"
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say it, like not trying to be funny. It's always somebody that don't live in a close proximity. So if I see that and I'd be like, somebody be like, "Well, how they die?" I'd be like, "This person live out of state. They live far away. They don't realize. Just pick up the phone." And I understand with Messenger, you got so many daggone hackers that deal with Messenger. So I get why people don't have that connected to their Facebook or whatever. And even in Instagram, you got so many hackers. But it's always that one person that's coming from left field somewhere talking about, well, how they die? What happened? Oh my gosh, that was my childhood friend. What they
Right.
did?
Right.
Like no sensitivity whatsoever.
And I mean, I'm curious myself, right? When someone dies and they're my age, their kids are around my age, I'm always like, oh my God, I wonder what happened. A lot of times, death will, as tragic as it can be, it will put you in a place where you'll have, an epiphany, or you'll be able to look back, look at your life and say, you know what, maybe I need to do some things differently, or, and I get that. But if you're not close with the family, or you don't know these people, I just don't think it's appropriate to ask publicly. And it's just not okay. I mean, I've had it happen. Like I've experienced that. People will call me and be like, oh my God, what happened? I have no problem telling. This is what happened. They were in the hospital for X amount of days. They went into cardiac arrest. Blah 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 blah. I'll run it all down. It's not a big deal. But for people who don't know, don't have a relationship, I just think why would you go on a status and ask how did somebody die? Who's going to respond to that? Who's going to be like, oh, yeah, this is what happened, and that's what nobody's going to respond to that. Nobody's
I
going to
mean,
respond to that.
even if they know, 9 out of 10, um, a lot of people are not gonna, like you said, a lot of people are not gonna say nothing. That's a little bit where it's private, and even sometimes medical examiners, and we can know something is apparent, but medical examiners won't even, don't even tell you they can't even tell you until they do a daggone autopsy. But
Right.
one of the things that we want to discuss, and we didn't want to go into, like I said, too deep into certain things that happen after the death. But I did want to address the issue of having those difficult conversations prior to a person that may be older with dying. A lot of people, you see, a lot of people be like, after the death, things be a little crazy, and it's like you never had the conversation. I know I discussed with Dara, either Julia, when my mother passed away, it wasn't like a super deep conversation I had to have with my sisters and brother. It was
Mm-hmm.
just, this is what we need to do. This is what we got to take care of, and we just took care of it. I know a lot of times it'd be a lot of problems, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
that go on because nobody never had the conversation. And then you always get the one sibling that will take care of everything, and then somebody feels left out, and just that, and third. It's like, I always find that interesting because all it takes is a conversation at the least. Pick up the phone and talk to somebody.
Right. And I think a lot of that comes from someone not necessarily feeling left out, but feeling like you're going to get something that I'm not going to get, or you're going to be the first to have this information that I'm not going to know, and being in finance as long as I have been and opened all of the estate accounts. And even though once when I received the will, I looked it over, probably maybe like the first 3 or 4 pages, but it was all sent up to legal. So I didn't really get a chance to really look at it. So by the time it comes back to me, it's summarized, and the summary just basically tells me what I need to do. But what people, I think and I mentioned this to you before we got on, the financial planning for a funeral doesn't start when someone dies. It's not a separate conversation. Like, I notice a lot of people that like to sell life insurance. They try to have a discussion about life insurance as it pertains to just death. And I think that's where the mistake comes in.
Hmm.
I see all of these young people on every social media platform they can get on, and they're talking about the $3 or $4 worth of stock that they got in GameStop and Target and the apps they have, and they stocks is going up and blah 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 blah. I've had stock for over 20 something years, right? Tons of it, and I still have it. I get summaries every so quarterly. I don't touch it. I don't do nothing with it. Stock, if you have it, you have it. You don't, you don't. You don't be. I don't do all of that. Most people don't do all of that trading. You just have it, you own it, and you keep it, and then you leave it to your children or whomever when you're gone. That's it. You can cash it out if you want to, but all of this trading back and forth, that has never just been a thing. And I'm glad that they're learning and they're understanding and they're getting into it. But in that very same conversation that you're having with yourself, where you're saying, I need to build this wealth, and this is why I have these apps, and this is why I want to start this trading. That very same conversation where you're putting $3 and $4 a month into this stock, or $10 or $12, that same conversation, that's the financial literacy conversation. That's the conversation you need to be having. You need to be adding your death planning in that as well. And it's not a separate conversation from that. It literally falls in that when you're making those payments and putting that money out for those stocks that you're buying and whatever, you need to be doing the same thing with your life insurance. And you need to be evaluating it every so often to make sure that it is beneficial to you, that it is covering you, that if when you get to a certain age, when you have these policies on your children. I know some people whose kids are my age, right? So we have all kinds of people in the group that are probably watching. So if your kids are my age and you've had life insurance on them all of these years, sometimes after you've had it for so long, it's not really worth much and you need to cash it in.
Mm.
Reevaluate that life insurance and give it to your kids. Let them go buy a house or something, right? This is where those very same conversations that you're trying to have now. People have little kids. My kids are grown. So the people that are my age that have little kids and they're dibbling and dabbling and they stop because they're thinking that they're going to hit big one day. You may not, but where you're going to hit big in is when you die. It's the
Yes.
very same financial planning is the same financial planning in death. If you planned financially for your death, nobody would have to have these types of conversations when you die. Nobody.
Yeah, it's more like
and
people.
and
pe-
yeah, people, they like, it's like then they shame you when you don't have life insurance. And I always try to say, you got to be very, very careful when you're out here telling people, y'all don't have no life insurance but y'all have Jordans. You got to be really, really careful, because a lot of, especially during this time where people have been laid off and they're out of work, most 90% of people who have life insurance, that life insurance comes from their jobs. And if these people are not working any longer, that life insurance policy is not there anymore. So you need to be a little bit more sensitive about that.
Yeah,
But that's
that's one of the things I always thought was funny, and even I don't want to take the conversation to another level. To just keep it here, is that when we have a mentality sometimes in our culture is great, is beautiful. I love it. It is nothing like the culture that we come from. It's
mhm,
very distinct.
mhm.
However, one of the things that I always find out about our culture is that we always feel like we have the mystery ingredients to success. Um, So like when you mention when a person is doing good with stock, you'll have a person brag to you about stock and did not having those certain affairs in order in regards to death and life insurance. But then when you ask them about stock, you ask them to hold your hand and teach you.
They won't do
They're
that
not
either.
they won't teach you because
Mm-mm.
they have the secret ingredients to success. But then their affairs, like we discussed, won't even be in order. So it's
Right.
I always find that very interesting because we do things and we'll do things to brag to the next person. Oh, I got this car to for the next person to impress the next person. And like we always say, the last year or so, if one thing that COVID did not do is to teach all of us to appreciate the little things. Like you discussed, a lot of us statistics are not lying about the unemployment and what's going on. I remember one time, no, everybody was bragging so about I don't want no $1,200. I don't want this. I don't need that. I'm good. I make too much money. I don't need it.
And
That
now you
second,
don't have a job. You were looking for that second, and that second turned
yeah,
into six, and now you're like, well, I want 14. So many of us are out of work. So
yeah,
many of us out of work. But
yeah.
like you were saying, like, your financial, you talk about generational wealth. Generational wealth comes from death. So while y'all are talking about your stock, if you want your children to be wealthy, you have to make sure that when you die, you leave them something behind. That is
It's so,
the only way they're going to get ahead.
it's
That's
funny.
the that's
It's
where
funny.
your generational wealth is. It's in death. And if
It's funny.
you are too selfish to say, like I've heard older people say, "I'm not leaving all that money to them." Okay, okay.
It's
But
funny that you said
when you're
that.
when there's no that's where your generational wealth comes from. Do you know that
It's
there are
funny.
people out here that are millionaires and they leave behind millions and millions of dollars to their grandchildren and children on purpose so that they don't have to live the life you live and struggle the way that you struggle? You're
It's
not going
funny.
to get it in stock.
It's funny that you said that because that's what I've been trying to explain because I'm not telling anybody anything. I'm just trying to explain it. When you talk about reparations, that's where the reparations issue comes in. You need a wealth
Hmm.
transfer down from generation to generation. And when
Hmm.
you start out zero wealth, and we even know in our community how a lot of people when they start out life, let's just say you start out 18 years, you don't have a house. A
Hmm.
house wasn't handed down to you when you got married and said, "Okay, this is the house for y'all, you and your husband, to build, to actually leverage that house to get other things." Like a
Hmm.
lot of other people, you don't have the trust fund, and this is where a lot of people will say, "Okay, well, what do you mean?" And I don't want the conversation to go to reparations. I know I can get going when it comes to that because I just don't see how anybody could be against it. When you look at it, they'll feel as though because they're being successful and they have established something, which is a great thing when you can quote unquote do something. But we're talking about having the generational wealth, leaving something for your generation, passed down. Because I know every family that I know has
Hmm.
lost a house, not just gained a house, but lost a house. So if every family that I know did not lose a house, and those houses was passed down to reliable people and so forth and so on, I know the wealth gap wouldn't be as significant, maybe as it would be.
Right.
That's
Right.
interesting that you brought that up because a lot of people don't understand that a lot of the generational wealth comes in death with where an aunt who may didn't have kids or uncle who didn't have kids leave all their nieces and nephews $250,000 trust fund here, and now you're using that to invest in this. Even so much that Jeff Bezos, when he started Amazon, he went to all these people with money, but he had like $600,000 after he done raised his money. We can't even raise $1,000. We
Right,
we
because you want to when somebody dies and they need it, you shame them because they had a fish fry. How much do you contribute to their fish fry that you have the audacity to open up your mouth and say, this is not a life insurance plan. How much do you get? Not even $25, because a fish of what a fish sandwich and two sides. How much is that? $10. So
Elsie
you
said,
gave $10 to somebody to help somebody. You don't even know their situation. You gave them only you gave them $10, and the funeral is what, five to maybe $10,000, and you shame them, you talk shit about them, and you make it. You This is the conversations that you have all online, all in public, all in your group chats, because you gave somebody $10 to go toward their funeral expenses.
and like Elsie said, GoFundMe has replaced life insurance.
It has,
And
but I
and
think the reason why that has happened is because the people who sell life insurance are not having these financial planning conversations when they are having other financial planning conversations. They literally discuss life insurance as if it's separate from financial planning. It is not. It is not. It is not about that. It is about setting up your family for generational wealth. The same way you're hoping to hit it big at the casino, the same way you're hoping to hit it big in these stocks, the way you're hoping to hit it big, with these black-owned businesses, is the same mindset you need to have when you are talking about life insurance, because that's your big hit. That's it. Life insurance.
yeah, and you know what's interesting is that you see it and we get caught up in it, right? I remember when Ecstasy passed away from Houdini,
Okay.
and they
Hmm.
had a GoFundMe, right? And
Hmm.
you saw a lot of, and I'm one of the people that I just look at the comments and I get a kick out of comments. I do
Me
look
too.
at comments and get a kick out of. So everybody just had this expectation that he had money, um, he had his affairs in order, and like you saying, Shakita, what a lot of people don't understand is that majority, and I don't have any statistics to back up what I'm saying. Majority of people don't have their affairs in order.
But just think, right? And I said this earlier. If you thought that your life insurance was your family's big ticket to generational wealth, the way you put change into these stocks, say $25 a month, you would pay $25 a month on your life insurance. And you would make sure those policies were at least $250,000. And if that means that you had to spend $50 a month or $100 a month, if you truly believe that's my wealth, that's how I'm going to leave all of this money to my children and grandchildren, you would do it and wouldn't think nothing of it. But the fact that you separate it from financial planning and you think that it has everything to do with death, it's the problem. That your life insurance is your financial planning. And these people who are out here that are out of work don't have that. These houses that our people lost, we did not lose those houses primarily because we made bad decisions. A lot of times those interest rates were bananas. We couldn't even
Yeah,
afford those. We couldn't even afford them houses. We barely could afford to make renovations and do things we needed to do on those houses. We were struggling living in those houses. And you have to look back at the housing market and the way that they treated us, because that in itself would be some form of generational wealth. A lot of people look at houses as a burden. I have to pay these taxes, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's just too difficult. But if you thought of a home as something that would give your children, um, or your family, a stepping stool to some form of generational wealth, that would be your monthly investment. Life insurance would be your monthly investment. Instead of saying, I'm gonna, somebody was told me, said the other day, they lost a couple of $100 in the stock market because they couldn't buy that. I wonder how much do they invest in their life insurance. I wonder how often do they go back and look at their life insurance and say, let me reevaluate what I could get, especially during this time, right, where a lot of people who are falling victim to the coronavirus and other things, right? So just think about, you know, I could be gone tomorrow, but just think about all of the people who are unemployed who are not putting money into life insurance right now, because a lot of people get that from work.
yeah, and now
And if your pay is only 60% of what you used to get, where are you getting that from?
now the whole policy is destroyed and they got to start all over again if they get back
Yeah,
to working.
exactly.
It's interesting that you brought that up. Is that um when we were younger, and like you brought up about the interest rates and how they treated us with the housing market. I think that a lot of times people, when we're younger, will look at what happened in this country and say, okay, slavery did this to us. No, 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 no. Slavery was a period.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that period, it was some other things that were just
A
as
lot.
damaging as not just the physical slavery. And even up until this day of being disenfranchised and really not being able to, like, we're having a conversation about etiquette of death and how we would be financial planning or leaving generational wealth. I don't think in many cultures this conversation even has to be had.
Right. Right.
That's the sad part, because we
Right.
have to we have to have these conversations because of a problem that stemmed from, you could say, before 1619, or you could say when they first got to Jamestown on 1619, up
Mm-hmm.
until this day, that we have been a culture has been disenfranchised for so long. So many things happen. Like the housing market is so deep, and I always say this. And with looking at Elsie's comment, I think about the post that I put up the other day. I think she might have put it up about the housing projects. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whoever designed that, I just think that was the craziest idea of putting multiple families in a segregated area with multiple kids, no men around, single mothers. It was like doomed for disaster. I mean, it was like, who was in their great mind thinking of this plan on how they could destroy a group of people, and it actually worked. Um, we know some great people came out of those type of environments, but still, the long term effects on where a lot of us came from. We got to get rid of some of those, for lack of better words, shackles.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the death conversation. I'm glad that you decided this conversation, Shakita. I mean, you kind of threw me off with it. I didn't know where you were gonna go, but I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation, and you definitely needed. We definitely needed to hear it. We're dealing with death and trying to have some type of etiquette and just be sensitive. Just
Right.
somebody.
There's literally no compassion. The things that people say, like, grieving a friend of mine's family member, and somebody look at you and say, well, were you close to them? That doesn't,
Uh,
like, how do you say that? That this is like, and then you feel as though you need to, um you have to compete with that. You have to compete with those questions. So you want to put out there how close you were to somebody or what somebody meant to you, right? That's just like, God forbid something happens to a friend of mine that I met recently. I'm gonna be laid out. I don't care how long. I don't care how long I know. I don't care. I'm gonna be laid out.
yeah.
And like, you can't. Why? First of all, what does any of that matter? But why are you saying that? What would make you say that? I just can't begin to fathom how people are just so insensitive
Or
all
or
the
even
time.
or even they start. And I'm not being judgmental towards anybody, but I remember the last conversation we had, and then they go into the conversation. Like, some conversations that we've had with people before they die are meant to be private.
Right,
Whether they were good
right.
or bad, I know for me, I lost two cousins of grandfather last year. Well,
Mm,
two cousins of my grandfather last year. One cousin, I remember the last conversation me and him had. It was so hilarious on the phone, but I left the conversation. Nobody's ever gonna know the conversation, but it was just hilarious, and I won't share it. I think that sometimes, like you said, we internalize their hurt and their pain so much. Now we think it's, you know, oh, they left me. They
mm-hmm.
left me. No, they left
Yeah,
all. They left all of us.
everybody.
Most people that die have family and friends that will miss them. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
loss for everybody.
Right. And everybody needs to be understanding, needs to be, where's the compassion? Where's the empathy? Where is the sympathy? And I know a lot of people don't know the difference between the two. Maybe you should Google it and look it up, you know, but it allows you to, empathy allows you to put yourself in the other person's shoes, you know. So you
Yeah.
really have to be careful. Like in my family, when it came to grieving, my mother, I always felt like my mother was like the champion, right? I had never seen my mother emotional over death. She was always smiling. She was always very, very pleasant and very supportive. And I could be almost dead under the bed over my family member. And my mother will call me right up on the phone and be like, I'm at Lord and Taylor. When my grandmother passed away, she was like, I'm at Lord and Taylor. And I found this really, she wanted me to go. I was like, I'm not going. She called me all day and was like, what about this? I found this really pretty lavender dress or a white dress. And I mean, I'm in tears. And she was like, yeah, you think so? I think that this will, and never budged. That was not to say that my mother wasn't distraught because I knew my mother was, but I respected her grieving process. She respected mine. And that was, that's just how she handled things. But I
Yeah.
also remember when Pac died, when Tupac died, I was at my I was at my mother's house getting my hair washed. I don't know who was washing my hair. It might have been my little sister or one of my girlfriends. And I was getting my hair washed, and I was in tears talking about Tupac. And my mother, I don't know where, was like, you are in there crying um like you knew him. And I told her to shut her mouth. I said, you shut your I said, you shut your mouth. I said, you don't know my life. And to this day, I cry laughing. I cry laughing at that because here my mother is like, this girl is crazy, right? But you can't tell me how I felt about this man. You cannot tell me how I connected with him. I don't want to hear that him and Biggie had some kind of beef and that's why somebody killed him and that's the life that he was living, so that happened to him. I don't want to hear that. And I
It's like
think
when
people
we
need, you know what I mean? And I didn't know him, but I don't want to hear that. So I can only imagine somebody who child lived a life that brought them into the street and something tragic happened to them, and then you look a mother or family members in the face and be like, well, they was out in the street. How do you say that? Like, how do you say that to somebody? How do you say that to their family? Don't say nothing. Offer your condolences and go about your business. Right now, and I can't. I don't know. I don't know what I would do if it was my child or my family member. But I definitely would not. I would think so, that I would not be out in the street like, oh, we're gonna get them, or we're going to avenge the death. I'm grieving that you're not here.
I mean,
And I
at the
pray that
least,
you get to where you need to go. And if you're this religion, I hope Allah's pleased with you. And if not, I hope you get to heaven, right? That's all I can say. I ain't saying nothing else. But I ain't gonna be doing that. But I'm sure enough not gonna say to a grieving family, but they was out in the street. Like, what did you expect? Like, how do you say that when somebody is grieving death? How do you say, well, they were old, they lived their life? How do you say that? I just don't. I don't know where like. I just don't understand and don't know where the compassion and empathy and care is. We got to go back to just sending cards to the
or
funeral home.
just send a virtual hug because
Start sending,
you know
just
you know
go old school. Just start sending cards and flowers to the funeral home and be quiet,
it is
or
crazy
donate.
because
Give a little change and be
the
quiet.
craziest thing is that I done seen it happen so many times where a person be like, they was in the street, they was in a car accident. That's how they died.
Yeah.
Like with them being in the street. See, that's where I think that we go too far and just be like,
Mhm.
sorry to hear the news of your loved one, and if you don't have nothing to say, it's best just not to say nothing at all. You know.
Right. But we're so desensitized when we see people die. We're so desensitized when you hear that someone is gone I think that's where a lot of that comes from. You know, that's just where all of that comes from. You're just completely desensitized with death. That's the only thing I can think of. Because I remember in the day where someone would pass away, the whole community would get together, collect some money, and bring it over to the family's house. Like, what difference does it make if they had life insurance? And I'm talking about in our community. I can't speak for anybody else's, right? So if a mother passed away and left children behind, we would all collect some money, put it in a card, and get it over to those children. If Big Mama passed away, we would make sure that we went over there. We bought water, soda, chicken, cakes. We would make sure that the house and the family had everything they needed because Big Mama was the one who cooked all of the food.
Yeah.
We didn't just get on social media, ask stupid questions, and be insensitive and be a-holes. We put our feet to the pavement and we went and we made things happen. If somebody's child was, into drugs and died of an overdose, and they didn't have any life insurance on that kid, even if he was old and raggedy, they keep them kids around.
Yeah.
We would just collect a little change and make sure we can get them in the ground, and that would be the end of it. I don't get all of the shaming, all of the rudeness, all of the strange comments, comparing deaths. I remember when my dog died, and I announced that my dog died, and somebody went on Facebook and laughed. I had my dog for 14 years. She was my baby. I had dogs most of my life. This dog was like my child. This dog danced. This dog moved and did things on command. This wasn't a fly. This was a thing that you love and you cuddle and somebody laughed. My friends my friends were there with me when I put her to sleep. It was like an entire funeral. They had to hold me up and carry me out of that place. I don't know what people. I don't, like. People are just rude. People are just rude. I mean, cracking up, laughing
Wow.
when I announced that my dog died. I mean, the laugh. You know how when you on Facebook and you hold down the thing and you could heart, you could laugh, you could wow, you could do whatever. I'm talking about laughing. And when that come up in my memories, I think I'm gonna find out who that was, and I'm gonna ask them what's so funny. Because now I want to know, like, what is so funny when somebody loses something that they love? Like, you mean to tell me you didn't have a kind bone in your body that you just simply could not offer your condolences? And we're talking about a dog. We're not even talking about a person. So this person never comments on anything I say, don't like any of my pictures, don't congratulate any of my children's accomplishments. But the minute you saw that I said that my dog passed away and how devastated I was, you thought it was funny. So this is why, I just think that people are just desensitized to death. They're rude, they're nasty, and they're mean, and they have absolutely no empathy. None whatsoever. None.
Lord help us. So is it any?
But when Joan Rivers died, they was falling out on the ground. Do you remember when Joan Rivers died? And they was falling out. Reagan died, they was falling out. Talking about he was they was falling out. That Dustin Diamond, I think that's his name. He passed away today. They falling out over Dustin.
Yeah.
You just have to offer your condolences. You have to go back to the old school sending cards to the funeral home. You can send a gift directly to the funeral. A card is $5. Send a card to the funeral home. Send flowers to the funeral home. Just be quiet. That's all I have.
With that, we're gonna close the show, and you never know when Shaketa's gonna pop up, so we don't.
I'm coming back because I'm gonna talk about Valentine's Day.
Oh
you
yeah,
have to talk about Valentine's Day. That's my thing.
We're gonna have a Valentine's Day show. It's gonna be a smorgasbord of interesting young ladies that feel as though that you lovers out there. Yeah, I try to get selective amnesia during Valentine's Day.
And it has to be the week before. Valentine's Day is on a Sunday.
Y'all start talking about y'all don't celebrate it. Well, I ain't celebrate. But that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The only thing that excuses you for Valentine's Day is if it is your religion and you were born into it. If you were not born into this religion, you cannot tell me you don't celebrate Valentine's Day. I want to hear it.
So we gonna have a discussion on Valentine's Day real soon. With that, everybody in the chat,
That's my
thank you guys.
favorite.
Thank you guys for joining us. Elsie says she had a whole funeral repast for Whitney. Yeah,
Don't get me started.
you know what? You know what's funny? The Whitney passing. I really believe that the state of New Jersey stopped when Whitney passed because everybody just was like tuned in.
Yeah.
But then
let me tell you, when Aretha passed away, we were at work. I had whoever wanted to join during lunch in the we had like a little conference room. I had the funeral up. And we were able to watch Aretha's funeral because you can't tell me how I felt about Aretha. I was through. When Prince died, I had to take time off of work. I had to take time off work. There was no way I could go to work when Prince died. No way. I mean, hysterical. And thank God for Kay Brown because she literally just went around everywhere with me. My friends took such good care of me when Prince died because I was a mess. Okay, she went to go see Purple Rain with me in the movie theater. She was holding me and hugging me when I was falling out at the end of the movie when he saw Purple Rain. Nobody see, girl, sis, Whitney, Prince, Aretha. Let me tell you, between Shaka Khan, Patti LaBelle, and Stevie Wonder. As soon as I said Stevie Wonder, my eyes got a little watery. Keep him, Lord. Keep him close. Keep Stevie to the core. I can't. And Farrakhan, let me tell you.
With that, we gonna close the show. Expect to see Shaketa before the February 14th, so we can have the Valentine's Day show. Because
we are absolutely talking about Valentine's Day. I'm taking notes.
That's
gonna
be
notes
interesting.
Yes.
You know, it's funny for someone who doesn't celebrate Christmas. Someone says something to me about Christmas, and I had to tell them why they celebrate Christmas because they kept trying to think that it was quote unquote the white man's holiday, not realizing that Saint Nick was a black man. But that's a whole different discussion.
So depending on you, we can't even hang out. Depending on who you talk to, and just like, and I feel like I bump heads a lot with people who are Muslim. I think because I'm black and in our culture that we it's almost like half and half, right? So you have Christians and you have Muslims. But then, just like I call some people that are like babes in Christ, I feel like they are also equally. I don't care if you were born Muslim. A lot of times you don't really get into it until you get a little bit older and you mature a little bit and you decide to do some research on your own, right? So I feel like a lot of them just don't really know. I think they, pagan this, pagan that. I get it. But everything didn't start with paganism. Like our history goes, when we talk about God goes back farther than you even could possibly imagine.
See, the thing is, and this conversation can really go. The thing is that a lot of, like you said, a lot of people don't know or understand, and with lack of understanding comes lack of tolerance. Lack of not really understand. Like when what one person does not make you go to the bathroom, for the lack of better words. And being able to tolerate and have some type of forbearance with other human beings would allow a lot of us to just shut up sometimes and just go about the flow.
Lord, if you don't preach,
we're gonna have a show on Valentine's Day, and it's funny because I just seen the thing popped up for our last Valentine's Day show that we did last year. We're gonna have a show on Valentine's Day and love and all that.
Off that one.
Good, beautiful stuff. So just stay tuned for when we announce the show, and everybody in chat, stay safe. I know the weather in the Northeast is punishing New Jersey. I know New Jersey is getting punished. It reminds a lot of people of the blizzard of '96. So all those people that went out and bought these perishable items like milk, I hope your milk go bad because you shouldn't have went and got milk. You should have got some canned goods. But anyway,
would you tell it?
Y'all take it easy. and be safe out there and stay in, and hopefully your power stays on. I know a lot of people having power
Y'all don't
problems.
say that. Why are you even bringing it up?
Yeah, I
Power.
shouldn't.
Good
Y'all
night,
take care
everybody.
and have a blessed night.
Good night.